All right, everyone, get ready because today we are going deep on this Harvard vegetable soup.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know the one, right? It's like
Yeah.
super simple, all over the internet, all
Right.
these crazy health claims,
Yeah.
almost too good to be true. Right.
It is, it's definitely one of those things where you're like, wait, is this real?
Exactly. And you guys send in a ton of stuff about this.
A lot of stuff.
We've got that original Lemonade post. We've got your notes, the benefits, even a Harvard Magazine article that kind of throws a wrench in things.
Interesting.
Oh, and even some professional chef stuff on making amazing vegetable broth.
Nice.
So we're going to look at all of that and see, is this soup actually legit
I love it.
or is it just clever marketing?
Let's find out.
Let's get into it.
What really gets me is how, this very simple recipe
Yeah.
has just captivated like the whole internet.
Right.
It's really fascinating how information spreads online, especially when it's got a name like Harvard attached to it.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too, because we've all seen those clickbaity headlines, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But when you add Harvard to it, it's like it gives it that boost of legitimacy.
Absolutely. There's a psychological term for that. It's
Yeah.
called the halo effect.
Okay.
So we tend to transfer positive feelings about one thing. So in this
Yeah.
case, Harvard, right?
Right.
Onto something else, like the soup.
I see.
Think about celebrity endorsements.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't necessarily believe everything they say,
Right.
but because they're famous,
Yeah.
we're more likely to at least listen, maybe even trust their recommendations.
That's interesting.
It's powerful stuff.
So we're already seeing some potential red flags here.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into the psychology of it all,
Yeah.
let's break down the actual recipe.
Yes, let's do it.
This Lemonade post is saying that you just simmer onion, pumpkin, cabbage, and carrots for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
And you can boost your white blood cell immunity by 43%. It's supposed to regulate digestion, even help you lose weight.
Pretty bold claims.
Those are some big claims, right?
They are.
What do you think?
Well, on the one hand, it does sound really appealing.
Right.
Like a quick and easy, maybe even miraculous soup.
Totally.
But if we actually look at the science, the general benefits of vegetable soups, those are pretty well documented.
Right.
They're usually low in calories, low in fat, and they're high in fiber. Vitamins, minerals, which are all good for a healthy diet.
Yeah.
However, those specific numbers, like that 43% boost in immunity,
Right.
those are a little harder to believe without seeing some actual research.
Exactly. And to add to that,
Yeah.
both the Lemonade post and your notes mention that there's actually a ton of variations.
Oh, really?
People are adding carrots, potatoes, celery, some people even tomatoes. Makes you wonder, is it really the Harvard soup if everyone's changing it up?
That's a great point.
And that brings us to the Harvard Magazine article,
Oh,
which really kind of throws things off, right?
yeah.
So this is from 2009, which is well before this whole viral recipe thing happened.
Wow. Okay.
And it features this book by a Harvard alumna, Teresa Chen.
Okay.
And her book focuses on Cantonese slow-cooked soups, drawing on traditional Chinese medicine. Hold on, traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
I'm interested, but I'm also a bit confused.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you give me like a quick rundown?
Absolutely. So traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM,
Yeah.
they view food as medicine, essentially.
Okay.
It's a holistic system.
All right.
It emphasizes balance and harmony within the body.
Okay.
And they use specific ingredients and cooking methods to address different health concerns.
Okay.
So Chen's book is all about using soups to nourish and restore the body,
Uh-huh.
focusing on long, slow cooking to really extract the maximum flavor and nutritional value.
Interesting.
So very different.
So even though Chen's book definitely has that Harvard connection,
Right.
it doesn't actually mention this 4-ingredient soup that's gone viral.
Huh.
It seems like the Harvard connection might just be a coincidence.
It could be.
Or, like we were saying before, maybe just some clever marketing tactic.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Right.
But regardless of the name, people are making the soup and they're curious about the benefits.
Absolutely.
So why don't we look at those professional chef perspectives that you found?
Good idea.
Maybe they can shed some light on what makes a truly good vegetable soup.
Yeah, maybe we can get some tips on how to make this viral recipe even better.
Right.
Because it's just those 4 basic ingredients.
Right.
I'm really interested in that scrap debate you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Where one chef loves using vegetable scraps and the other one's totally against it.
Yes, exactly.
What is the deal with that?
Okay, so it's really about balancing flavor
Uh-huh.
and frugality.
Oh, yeah.
The chef from Feasting at Home, she loves using scraps like
Oh, yeah.
carrot peels, onion ends, even mushroom stems.
Wow.
She freezes them and adds them to broth later. She sees it as a way to reduce waste and like really maximize the flavor.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Getting the most out of those ingredients.
Right.
I'm all about that.
Absolutely.
But why is the other chef against it?
So the chef from the first mess, she believes that scraps can actually create a muddy or like a funky taste
Okay.
in the broth, and it kind of dilutes the intended flavor.
Right.
She prefers using whole fresh vegetables for a cleaner and brighter taste.
So it's about that control
Exactly.
and getting that perfect flavor.
Yes, exactly.
Any other, like, wisdom from the culinary masters?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They both warn against using vegetables from the brassica family.
Which
So that's like kale, broccoli, cauliflower, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently they can make the broth bitter.
interesting.
And feasting at home, she gets super creative with her additions.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
She talks about reishi mushrooms,
Okay.
walnuts for richness,
Uh-huh.
even a splash of wine for complexity.
Wait, wine. In vegetable broth. I got to hear more about that.
It's all about layering flavor
Okay.
and creating depth.
This is making me want to go to the kitchen, like, right now.
For no, right?
And forget about this viral recipe.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away with all of that,
Yeah.
let's go back to something from your notes.
Okay.
Using an electric cooker for this soup.
Yeah.
Good idea, bad idea.
So a lot of the comments on that Lemonade post, they're really raving about how easy it is to make it in an electric cooker.
Okay.
And your notes actually point out some potential benefits, too.
Really?
Yeah. So electric cookers are known for their convenience.
Yeah.
And they're good at retaining nutrients.
Okay.
Because they cook food at a lower, more consistent temperature.
So it's like a win-win.
It seems like it, right?
But I know you mentioned some downsides.
Yes. There are a couple of things to consider.
Okay.
So while they are great at keeping those nutrients intact,
Uh-huh.
they can sometimes trap more moisture, which means you might end up with a thicker soup than you expect.
Oh, right.
And the taste could be a bit different, too,
Mm-hmm.
compared to like a stovetop simmer.
Good to know.
But your notes actually have some workarounds for this.
Okay.
You suggest adjusting the water level, adding ingredients in stages,
Okay.
even blending a portion of the soup
Right.
for a smoother consistency.
So it seems like there are ways to, like, adapt the recipe to make it work.
Definitely.
But the big question, the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
What about those big health claims we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
The boosting white blood cells, the melting away pounds.
Right.
Can this soup really do all that?
Let's put on our critical thinking caps here.
Okay.
So your notes do highlight some general benefits of vegetable soup, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's full of vitamins, fiber, relatively low in calories.
Right.
But there's no actual research on this exact recipe and its effects.
Right.
You know, it's important to remember that individual results can vary.
Yeah.
And food, while powerful,
It's not a miracle cure.
right. So it might be a healthy addition to a balanced diet,
For sure.
but we shouldn't expect it to, like, perform miracles.
Right.
Sounds like those specific numbers are more likely clever marketing
Yeah.
than scientific fact.
I think so. It's important to be, careful with the information we see,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to our health and well-being.
Definitely.
So this brings us back to that Harvard connection.
Yeah.
Where did this name come from, and why is it so persistent?
Right.
We'll dive into those questions after a quick break.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our exploration of the Harvard vegetable soup.
It's like a culinary treasure hunt.
Yeah.
But the map might lead to a dead end.
It could.
Before the break, we were getting pretty skeptical about the, health claims,
Right.
but also kind of excited about all the different ways you can make this recipe better.
Yeah, and our listeners, you guys brought up some great points in the comments.
Yeah.
A lot of you are right there with us, on the skepticism train,
Mm-hmm.
but also intrigued by how simple this soup is.
Right.
And it raises a really interesting question.
What's that?
Can something so basic actually be good for you?
That is a great question.
Yeah,
It really gets to, like, the core of what we're trying to figure out.
exactly.
Like, what makes something healthy?
Right.
Is it, like, specific ingredients?
Is it the calories?
Yeah, or is it more about, like, the bigger picture, your overall diet?
That's where those chef perspectives really come in handy.
Yeah.
They're not just thinking about taste, they're thinking about the nutritional qualities of the ingredients
Okay.
and how different cooking methods can affect those nutrients.
Okay, so let's pretend we're chefs for a minute.
Okay, I like it.
We're going to create our own, like, optimized version of this soup
Right?
using everything we've learned so far.
That's good.
So first up, Ingredients.
Yeah.
What are we keeping from that original recipe?
We got to keep the onions.
Yeah.
It's like a flavor powerhouse, in cuisines all over the world.
Yeah.
It's packed with antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds,
Right.
plus, remember what the chef said,
Yeah.
caramelizing those onions, it's key to building a rich and savory broth.
Absolutely. So onions in.
Onions in.
What about the pumpkin? Seems like a good source of vitamins and fiber,
Yeah.
but maybe a little too sweet
Yeah, you're right.
if we're going for that savory vibe.
You know what we could do?
What?
We could swap the pumpkin for butternut squash.
Oh?
Similar nutritional profile, so still high in vitamin A and fiber, but it has a less intense sweetness.
Okay.
And remember how the chefs talked about roasting vegetables to deepen the flavor?
Yes.
We could roast the butternut squash before adding it to the soup.
Ooh, roasted butternut squash.
Yeah.
I like it.
Right.
Okay, now the cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little torn on this one.
Yeah.
It's got vitamins, fiber, but remember, those chefs warned us about cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, cabbage.
Right.
Can make the broth bitter.
Yeah, that's true, but we can be strategic about it.
Okay.
We can keep the cabbage for the nutrients, but use it sparingly and add it towards the end of cooking.
Oh, okay.
That'll minimize the bitterness.
So smart.
Right.
And finally, the carrot.
Oh, yeah, the classic.
It's like, a soup staple full of beta-carotene adds that natural sweetness.
For sure.
Are we keeping it?
Absolutely. Carrots are in.
Carrots are in.
They add color, sweetness, and they're a great source of vitamins and antioxidants.
Perfect.
We could even get fancy and use a mix of colorful carrots,
Oh, yeah.
Purple, yellow, orange.
Yeah.
Adds visual appeal and a wider range of nutrients.
Love that idea.
So, to recap,
Yes.
our optimized ingredient list:
Hit me.
caramelized onions,
Okay.
roasted butternut squash,
Uh-huh.
a touch of cabbage,
Right.
and a rainbow of carrots.
Beautiful. Okay, so now what about the cooking method?
Yeah.
Are we sticking with the simple simmer, or are we going to use some of those chef-inspired techniques?
I think we should aim for a balance. We want to keep it relatively simple, but elevate the flavor and the nutritional value.
Right.
So instead of just throwing everything in a pot,
Yeah.
we're going to start by sautéing the onions in some olive oil
Okay.
until they get nice and golden brown, caramelized.
Right.
That creates those new flavor compounds that add depth to the soup.
Uh-huh.
Then we'll add the roasted squash, followed by the water or broth.
Speaking of broth,
Yeah.
big decision.
Big decision.
Do we stick with plain water, like the viral recipe,
Yeah.
or do we go for a homemade or store-bought broth
Mm-hmm.
to boost the flavor?
I think this is where personal preference comes in and time constraints. A homemade broth like the ones the chefs talked about will have the most complex flavor.
Yeah.
But if you're short on time, a good quality store-bought broth can work too.
Right. And remember those chef-approved flavor enhancers,
Oh, yeah.
like splash of vinegar for brightness,
Right.
fresh herbs.
Maybe some chili flakes for heat.
Yeah, it'll kick.
It's all about personalizing your soup,
Totally.
making it your own.
So even without those extra touches,
Yeah.
we've already got a pretty amazing soup, right?
I think so.
We kept those key vegetables from the viral recipe,
Right.
added some chef-inspired techniques. We're even considering broth
Yes.
for a more flavorful base.
Exactly.
But let's not forget about those health claims.
Oh, right.
Can we really say that our optimized version is going to boost white blood cells by 43%? Or magically melt away pounds?
I don't think so.
Right.
We've made some smart choices, but we can't make those claims without scientific research.
Exactly. And even if there was research on this exact recipe,
Right.
food affects everyone differently.
So true.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Absolutely.
So what we can say
Yeah.
is that our optimized soup is packed with nutrients, fiber, antioxidants, which are all good for your health.
Right. And it's delicious.
Yeah.
And satisfying.
Totally.
It can be part of a balanced diet.
Exactly. So we've got our optimized recipe.
We do.
We're a little bit skeptical about those viral health claims,
Rightfully so.
but we still haven't figured out that Harvard connection.
The mystery continues.
Where did this name come from?
Yeah.
And why does it stick around even though we've kind of debunked it?
Right.
We're going to tackle those questions head on in the final part of our deep dive. All right, we're back and ready to finish up our deep dive into the Harvard vegetable soup.
It really is like a mystery.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
But we're missing that last piece.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been talking about all this stuff.
Right.
And it seems like the name Harvard is a big reason why this recipe is so popular,
I think so.
even though there's no real evidence to back it up. It's almost like just saying Harvard makes everyone interested.
It's like magic.
Right.
It goes back to that halo effect we were talking about.
Right.
We kind of automatically like transfer good feelings from one thing to another.
Yeah.
So in this case, Harvard has this great reputation,
Exactly.
for excellence and being like an authority.
Right.
So that makes this simple soup recipe seem more believable,
Yeah.
even though they're not really connected.
It's like those as seen on TV products,
Oh, yeah.
They give
exactly.
something ordinary a fancy name and everyone wants it.
Right. But the problem is,
Yeah.
when it comes to health and wellness, misleading claims can actually be harmful.
Right. Because people are looking for solutions to real problems.
Exactly.
And they might believe anything that sounds promising.
Especially if it has a big name attached to it.
Yeah, so how did this soup even get the Harvard label in the first place?
Right.
Was it just like a total coincidence?
It's possible.
Or is there something else going on?
Remember Teresa Chen?
The Harvard alumna who wrote that book on soups.
Yes, her work is legitimate.
Right.
And her recipes use the principles of traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah, which is all about food as medicine.
Right.
Her approach seems very different from this viral recipe.
It is.
But there's still that Harvard connection.
Exactly. So maybe the Harvard vegetable soup name is like a messed up version of her work.
I see.
Maybe someone heard about her approach, saw her book, and over time the details got mixed up, simplified,
Hey,
and the Harvard part just stuck.
it's like that telephone game,
Yeah.
where a message gets passed around and changes completely.
Or so a simple recipe gets shared, changed a little bit, shared again,
Yeah.
and suddenly it's something totally different.
And now it's viral.
And it's promising all these quick fixes and easy health solutions.
It's a good reminder to not always believe what we see online.
For sure.
We have to think critically,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to our health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean for our listeners?
Yeah. What have we learned from this deep dive?
Well, the biggest takeaway is to be careful about online information. Not everything is true, especially health claims.
Right. Do your research.
Yeah.
Look for reliable sources.
And don't believe anything that sounds too good to be true.
And another important point,
Yeah.
simple doesn't have to be boring.
Right. We saw how the chefs made a basic recipe better, just with some simple techniques and good ingredients.
And lastly, don't underestimate the power of names and labels.
Oh, yeah.
They can really influence what we think, even if the connection is weak.
We have to be aware of that.
Absolutely. So that's our deep dive on Harvard vegetable soup.
I think we did a good job.
We might not have solved the mystery of the name,
It's still out there.
but we learned a lot about how information spreads.
And how easy it is to be misled.
We talked about the halo effect, those tricky health claims online.
And how even the simplest recipe can be amazing with a little creativity.
We hope you'll get in the kitchen and try some of this stuff out.
Experiment, have fun with it.
Who knows, you might just create your own culinary masterpiece.
Until next time.
Happy cooking, everyone.